Hello, my friends, Evolutionary Energy Arts family. Thank you guys for joining us. I hope you guys are staying warm where you are.
Yeah, we're doing okay. We're staying indoors, I guess. It's keeping us warm.
Yeah, it'll be down in the 20s again tonight, which, I hate this weather, but what can you do?
You can cuddle a whole bunch.
Oh, okay. She's got an idea there. I hope you guys are cuddling up there as well. Good to see you guys. Raven, good to see you. Johan, good to see you. Pete Repeat, Chris Marr, Mother Tucker in the house. Nicole Spencer, breaking out from the present planet. Good to see you, brother. Brother David's in the house. Samuel, good to see you.
Judy. Hi, Miss Judy. And Johan, we got you. Pete Repeat, love it. And then a bunch of silly stuff from Sassy Susie.
Yeah, that Sassy Susie lady, she could be a troublemaker, a little pot stir.
Why did you give her a wrench?
I know. Yeah, well, what can we do? We got to trust, right? So today's topic is, to me, a fascinating one. And I've done videos on it before in the past. It's been a while. I've kind of really been avoiding anything political because it could get so divisive. It could lower our vibrations, to say the least. But then, at the same time, we got to recognize what's going on. We have to not allow ourselves to be pulled into all the drama. And there is a lot of drama going on in this country.
There is, and you know what? It's all a distraction, but my question is, a distraction from what exactly, precisely?
Well, there's a lot of things going on. If we look, and I did 2 videos that went up on Patreon that aren't really YouTube friendly today, and we could see one of the topics for you guys to see there. And the other topic is, a very hot one. And, both of these are hot topics. There's a lot going on while we're staring at the political situation and wondering what's going to come up next. But there's a lot of stuff going on that's very disconcerting. Many people would look at it as, kind of losing our liberties, losing our freedoms. And before we get rolling with this, I just wanted to come over here. So Thomas Jefferson once said, a government big enough to give you everything you want is also strong enough to take everything you have.
Yeah, it is. And they have a lot of these little pithy sayings that I love. These guys were really smart, but you wonder, like, who were they really working for and how far back does this setup go? Who set it up? I think it was like a little bit higher intelligence than just regular man, personally.
I was so into studying everything from the founding fathers, and I've shared with you guys straight up before that more libertarian. So, that's my point of view. And, from a libertarian point of view, you don't want a big government. You would rather have there be a much smaller, if not minuscule, if no federal government. It's because it infringes on our civil liberties and our rights. And I believe in the right of the individuals. And what we're seeing going on across the board is our rights are dissolving in front of our eyes as we watch the political situation, going on. It's just so disconcerting because, we're watching so many of our rights just gone.
Well, we are, but I'm wondering, I know that big government's not good. That's not working very well right now. But so if you take the big government and you break it up in little bitty pieces and they all have, equal sums of power, I'm still not sure how that really helps us.
Right. And so JR Arizona Patriot says, where are you going to park your new trailer? Well, it's right in front of the house right now. And it's calling to us. I think we're getting very itchy. Mm-hmm. And the more 40 degree, 45 degree high days, 25 degree low nights we're getting, it's calling to us more and more.
It is. It's like we have our 3D bodies here out here, but our etheric body's already there, which can make for some really kind of detached days.
Most definitely. And, Nicole says Thomas Jefferson was an interesting man. He sure was. And then we had a comment, how would you like to be in North Korea? No, I understand. I think the world system is just been messed up, and it's obviously not what it should be. Sure, there's always worse places, but what we have in the U.S. is we have a divide that's getting to be cavernous, and I was thinking before, like and Cindy mentioned to me too, she said you have those maps of the U.S., like the U.S. Navy map, just to pull it up with the Earth changes. And let me do that. And let's just scoot over here. So when we see like the U.S. Navy map, the country is basically split. There's a split in half. And, the Gulf of Mexico, like Edgar Casey said, joins with the Great Lakes. And, maybe this political divide is symbolic of what's going to happen physically, or maybe this, what we think is going to be a physical change, and it's going to actually split the country in two. Maybe that's also talking about ideological, because we are so divided as a country. It is probably, is it hopeless?
I don't think it's hopeless for those who can go within and stand on their own and listen to their heart. We, in and of ourselves, we can hold it together. But the chaos that would be outside of our sphere might be a little unmanageable. So it would require a lot of deep going within, I think.
Okay, here's another Jefferson quote. 2 enemies of the people are criminals and government. So let us tie the second down with the chains of the Constitution, so the second will not become a legalized version of the first. Yeah, that was prophetic, was it not? And all the amendments that have been done that have slowly whittled away what was originally supposed to ensure our liberties and freedoms. No free man shall ever be debarred from the use of arms. The strongest reason for the people to retain the right to keep and bear arms is as a last resort to protect themselves against the tyranny in government. And that's from Thomas Jefferson's papers. As I was sharing on Patreon, if you look at what's going on in Virginia right now, very disconcerting. And you guys could see the title of that. And it's, perhaps coming to more places than just Virginia. We saw basically checkpoints, going into California from Nevada, that we hadn't seen before when we were heading into Shasta, and it really felt weird. It felt like an intrusion. It really did, and you didn't know what they're going to do. They waved us through, no problem. But, will there be a day soon when you go from one state to another and they're going to pull you out and pat you down?
White House considers arguing that Trump wasn't impeached. Was he, wasn't he? Was he, wasn't he? Does it really matter, really? I mean, even if he was, has anything changed in the last few days? That tells me this is such a distraction. Nothing has changed, and I don't think anything's going to change. It's just like, look at this, look at the right hand while the left hand does something else. It's a trick. It's not fair.
It's interesting, and so much of this feels like it's done to really get us ticked, to get us mad, to put us in a negative frame of mind. And yet, like Cindy was alluding to, I feel it's all, there's a lot going on where it's like, look here, look here, look here. And meanwhile, there's guys unloading your house and loading it into a truck, while you're distracted with somebody else. There's something else big going on, under the scenes. And, I know there's going to be a lot of different ideas on this in our family as well. So I hope everybody will keep it civil, because I know you guys will.
Yeah, there is so much more going on. It's like they're trying to jab the hornet's nest, like poke, poke, maybe hoping that there might be a civil war. But frankly, and this is a terrible, terrible thought, but it almost feels like we're too lazy to get up and start a civil war.
Yeah, and we're not advocating civil war by any means, again, because, I mean, for the most part, we are pacifists,
Yeah, we are.
but at the same time, activists, and so it might sound like a contradiction, but it's not necessarily.
Acting passively? I don't know. I don't know.
Well, we want change, and so how do you get change? You have to wake people up to what's going on. And, it's just pathetic when we see how bad the government has been. And so Pete Repeat says they passed a $1.4 trillion spending package. When you look at the details with a lot of laws that get put in, there'll be things that are put in at the last minute, and they're the zingers, where it's like taking away our civil liberties. That happens all the time, and it's very disconcerting.
It is very disconcerting. And Pocahontas, I love your name. She says where did you go? That Cascadia was acting up, and maybe it's a distraction from that. It could be. It could be. I know that Cascadia has been acting a little bit weird off and on throughout the years. I'm not sure like when to really, really be concerned or not, but I do hope everybody stays safe.
Yeah, most definitely. And so, breakout from the prison plants talking about fluoride and, the upgraded, you know, 5 with the letter behind it there, and how a lot of people are still asleep with that. And just if you guys use Tom's toothpaste and you think it's all fluoride free, Cindy just ordered some for somebody in the family. And, I just said, it's got fluoride, sweetie. And she's like, because, even Tom's, which used to be like all no fluoride, but now they have fluoride in them, in some of them. Mm-hmm. So you got to look carefully at things like that. And then David was talking about the Bolivian coup, and that's true. It is completely true. There are coups that are going on all the time. And, as he says, all ties between Bolivia, U.S., and Israel have been reinstated. It's a much more tangled web than people believe when they're just buying into this left-right paradigm, because part of the paradigm is to get you all worked up so you don't notice what's really going on here.
Mm-hmm. And then when things do go on, they move it at such a slow pace, and it's very akin to a frog in boiling water, warming that water up so slow, that poor frog. And we're the frog, you guys. Like, we don't even notice it's happening so slow unless you do watch one of these channels. And these channels, they're getting squeezed because of what we point out.
Yeah, and so I'm one that looks at all these people that are up on these debates and stuff. And to me, what they're doing is they're trying really hard to be the next puppet that's being played by the puppet masters, because that's all they are, is they're just talking heads that, they're not really in charge. Again, I really don't believe the president's in charge. And, that's my personal opinion. I think, things are run behind the scenes by powerful elite families and corporations. And this has been going on for the longest time, honestly. And we see here Democratic debate ratings hit the lowest point of 2020 presidential campaign. It's just like the ratings for Congress. It's like approval's like 7 to 9%. Oh my God, why is not every single one of them kicked out and we just do a complete reset? Why not get rid of the two parties that are obviously controlled? And we see it time and time again. We have a huge corporation, such as like a Google, we know these big corporations, Microsoft and so many of the others, and they'll fund both sides. The lobbying system is so corrupt. And, when you get down to it, when you get to that top point, they're all bought and paid for, in my personal opinion. I think they're all bought and paid for. And the ones that might not be bought and paid for, they get shoved out. They get shoved out one way or another. So, you had 7 candidates that took part in that debate, right? And there was one that was notably not there, and I'm forgetting her name now. A lot of you guys have mentioned her and saying, what do you think of this one? She's younger.
Oh yeah, she's younger, she's pretty, she's vibrant, she's everything we would want. And to me, I mean, on the outside, but to me, she's just another like thing dangling out there for people to vote for. Like, oh, here's some hope, here's some hope. To me, it's just another trick. It's another trap, and well, for me personally, it's just not going to work.
Yeah, and I agree. But, so she was not allowed to come in and debate. So that tells me that, maybe she's actually not bought and paid for yet. Maybe she's actually legit. And guys, can you help me with this? What's her name? I think
Tilly Tolly.
She's from Hawaii, I think, right? Isn't she from Hawaii?
No,
not Kamala Harris. She dropped out.
Tully,
no. I can't remember her name.
Is she Republican?
Tulsi.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Power Vapor Supply. Tulsi Gabbard, most definitely. Okay, so, that just made me think, okay, well, maybe she's not completely bought and paid for yet, so maybe she's actually legitimate. She also kind of stayed on the outside with the vote as far as the impeachment and just voted present instead of saying yay or nay. So she definitely... I don't know. It raised my curiosity about her, but at the same time, I just think the system is so broke, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter, And we had, in the last 2 presidents, the most divisive ones we've ever seen. How could you possibly pick more divisive candidates than one who were even questioning if he was, truly, a citizen of the United States? And him and his partner there, we're even questioning the status of that relationship. At least when I actually got connected to some people in Chicago politics, apparently it was actually kind of known, the situation there. And then the videos showed up, which were terrifying. So it's just, to me, it's all a charade. And again, I think it's done on purpose. I think that these people are being picked because they are the most divisive, because I think the ultimate thing here is division and controlling through division.
It is, and controlling through our emotion and fear. And the best way to control a human being is to put them in a state of fear and worry. And, part of that, another way they do that is to make us work like, 70, 80-hour weeks. So we're too exhausted to really do any deep research. So they have a pretty good handle on us right now.
Yeah, most definitely. And look at this article right here. Americans are at each other's throats. Here's one way out. So everybody notices it. The divide's huge. I don't see it changing. Although we did, as I said, we've had the 2 most divisive, people we could think of, because obviously the Democrats hate President Trump more than pretty much anybody that's ever came before. And yet Republicans hated Obama probably more than anybody that ever came before him. So, it's a pendulum swinging. It's going whoosh, whoosh. And it's getting bigger. The arc is getting bigger, and people are feeling frustrated. And obviously, the thing that hits me too is when you get down to it, there's so little change between either party when they take office. The military spending constantly goes up, the deficit constantly gets bigger, and our rights constantly erode.
They do, and it's little by little, and yeah, that pendulum sure does swing, and it's going to overcorrect at some point. And I don't see anything changing unless there's some sort of really big something happening, and that's a really I don't like to think that way, but how can we have a subtle correction when things are just really so far out of whack?
So yeah, I see somebody talking about Barack Obama endorsing Michelle for 2020. You know, I don't know. It's like, and then we're hearing that they're going to pull Clinton back off the heap. And, I've seen some photos of Hillary. And it looks like, maybe Hillary passed on and she's been dead and buried, and they pulled another clone out of the closet.
Yeah, it definitely didn't look like her. The cheeks were too plump and the eyes were kind of a little bit bright there. So something was definitely off.
Yeah, most definitely. She looked strange, weird. Weird. I mean, it just didn't even look like her. And she could look pretty scary at times, as can Pelosi. And we were wondering if Pelosi was actually human, or you know what? Because sometimes it looks like, it reminds me of Men in Black. When the alien was inside the meat suit, the human meat suit, and it wasn't really fitting so well.
Yeah, that was a really gross show, especially at the end with the bug. But you got a point there.
Yeah, I kind of question it. Frank says Hillary died before the last election was over. I wouldn't be surprised. Think about the tech. Think about the technology we have. We know we could clone. And, maybe. Really, maybe. It's like, it sounds crazy, but maybe.
Yeah, it could be. The technology we have is, well, we don't even exactly know. So what we have seen out there has already been out there for 10 or 20 years, and they've perfected it, and they've gotten some kind of control of it. So now we get to see it. It's like we're sloppy seconds. That's terrible, but it's true.
And divided we stand. The country is hopelessly split. So why not just make it official and break up? Why not? What do you guys think? What do you guys think in the chat room? Right now we're showing 154 people in the chat room. So let me put it out to you guys. Should the country basically split up? Should it go the route of the USSR? Should it be dissolved and each state basically do its own thing? Or should it, break down and become, one of these others? Let me see here. Where was it? Okay. Should it break down into smaller pieces? Do you think, there should be maybe, several countries? Should it break up into 5, 6 different countries? Or should it just go and revert to being 50 separate independent states? They could still basically do their own thing and make defense treaties. We have NATO. And so, there's things like that. You don't really actually have to have the federal government for defense. And the other thing, too, is I really don't think other people are going to sweep in and try to take us over. I don't think so. You never know, of course, but I still don't see it.
I don't know what that would entail, if it would bring in more corruption because there's more lines that could be grayed or confused or blurred. It makes way for like a rabbit hole of stuff. So I'm just really not sure.
Yeah, it seems like what I'm seeing, a lot of people think we need to remain united, but states' rights too. Nancy Pelosi might be 8,000 years old for all we know about it. Yes. JJ, Border Patrol on every state border. Take Costa Rica. Costa Rica has no military. Nobody's invaded it. So, just looking at it from that point of view, Felicia says we don't need a government. They're all fired. I personally think a big federal government is probably the most dangerous thing for our own, rights. And when we're looking at some of the states even, some states could even subdivide. There has been a lot of talk about California breaking up into different units, for instance, and because California is extremely divided. And, automatically you think it's all completely liberal, but it's not really the case, as with so many different states. It's not really the case, although obviously California, Oregon, Washington, they have some of the biggest, scariest laws on the books, in so many ways. Mm-hmm. And that takes me over to the other one that was over on Patreon today. And these things that, some people could talk about on YouTube, but most of us can't. And that gets me curious, too, as to why some channels don't get hit. But then when I look at those channels that don't get hit on these topics like this, they're taking a very big, strong stance in one direction or the other. Politically, they're completely behind somebody. And, that I think is part of it, because I do think they want us divided. Bottom line.
They do. And Heavy Metal Pedal mentioned something that I was thinking about earlier, is FEMA already has plans to divide it into 11 sectors. So maybe the division is already there. It's just not exactly under the kind of leadership we would want.
So, will there be a state that ends up leaving the union? So, I'll throw it out there with obviously the President Trump situation, impeachment. So, obviously you got the House it did impeach him, and now it will come to the Senate if it does come to the Senate. I've seen all sorts of stuff out there. I saw today there was more than one source basically talking about a plan to get Pence out of there as well, and to put Pelosi in there with Clinton, and that's, the big Democratic plan. Can you imagine what's going on here? So if nothing else happens, if the Senate stays the way it is, and it doesn't get passed in the Senate, so in effect, it's just the same thing as we had with Clinton before. It's just kind of a slap on the wrist type thing. It's one thing, but what if he did? What if somebody jumped to the other side, and then again, it could be part of the bigger plan, and he's actually, quote unquote, removed from office, but then refuses to go. Right. And what if the military, supports him, as they very well might? When you look at all the military people that have been, in his cabinets, of course, his cabinets have been a rotating carousel, constantly people coming and going. But, then we might end up with some sort of military martial law dictatorship. And to me, that's always felt like that's the bigger plan that they've had in mind. That's just the way my mind works, and it's very suspicious at times.
Yeah, I'm not really sure about all of that. It all feels like a really huge distraction to get people, even more divided, if that's possible. But I guess anything's possible at this point. It's a concerning thought. And you know what, though? They have enough money and they have enough people. They could pull it off. Yeah.
And just... I know there's a lot of people out there that believe Trump has a white hat on, but I just look at things and say, okay, well, the military budget, it's gone up higher than ever under him. It increased rapidly. If he really was a white hat, why are they still spraying the skies like that? Why are our rights still being dissolved as if it didn't matter if it was Obama or if it was Bush or Clinton or Bush? The rights are still getting eroded. So that hasn't changed. And there's been more executive orders put in that they could, if you want to leave the country, get away from this country, say, I had it with this place. If they want to, they could go to another country, take your assets. And it's not just... it's not just terrorists. It's anybody now. So, if you're semi well off and you said, I've had enough of this, I'm going to Zaire, I'm going to Madagascar, I'm going to wherever. If they want to, they could seize your assets, and they could actually even bring you back. And of course, we know also now, people could be held indefinitely in places like Guantanamo Bay. And honestly, we've heard about so many indictments, sealed indictments. We hear. We know there are things going on. Obviously, there's been some huge cases that come out in the open. So it does look like there is a war on. And to me, I just view it as, a war amongst the elite, really. That's the way I view it. I don't think it's a war being fought for the commoner. I think this is the same sort of war we've seen with the King of France fighting against the King of England or the King of Spain. It's still the haves and the have-nots, and it's just a war to see which of the haves is going to get to be, the top puppet.
Yeah, and we make very good pawns, and if you're in the game and you're in the system and you really buy into it, we are controlled by our anxiety and our fears. But if you can step out of that and take a step back and look, then you're not so easily controlled.
Yeah, exactly. So, for me, I would breathe a big sigh of relief if the federal government was dissolved, because I would just feel it's easier. I mean, we know there truly is a globalist agenda, without a doubt. We know that. And, this system has been there going back to Babylon and Sumeria, probably handed on to us, or to the, sons of the gods, daughters of the gods, the Gigi, however we want to, these families of certain bloodlines, and they've maintained control for a long time. And, I do view it that the military-industrial complex is perhaps something a little bit separate, and taking the reins. Look at the battles amongst the Anunnaki themselves. There was always battles amongst the Anunnaki themselves. It's just the way they were, always fighting. Yeah, and still we have the same thing with these ruling elites, always fighting.
Yeah, they are. And, let's see, James Broom says I'm 3 minutes behind. But if he were to refuse to leave office, then he would become our king technically, because it would no longer be a democracy. What do you think about that? That's a curious thought.
That's what I've thought all along, because I think that they've been getting us ready for this. They've been putting us on this pendulum, swinging back and forth. And what's going to happen is, something in which everybody's going to have to kind of choose a side. And one of these situations, and he has made statements too, where he does obviously think he's above the law, and you could see it. So, I'm, as I said, I'm not a Democrat, and I'm not really a Republican. I'm, again, more of a libertarian, and libertarians don't want big government at all. We fear the government more than just about anything, because they could take away all our rights and liberties. And when you have people being taken by Child Protective Services, and I know this video is going to be totally demonetized, so I'm not even worrying about it, But I mean, it's the case now where Big Brother can take kids away from their parents when their parents make a decision that doesn't go along with, the MD. And it's happened time and time again, time and time again. That's the type of stuff that I can't stand, and that's the type of stuff that makes me want to get out of this whole country, and most definitely the states that are allowing that, because not all the states are allowing that type of thing, but it is getting to be more and more prevalent, and it's horrible, because they're making the decisions for us about what will be put in our bodies, in our kids' bodies. And, what we can say, they're taking away our right to say, no, I don't want that. And, for me, I think personally we'd be better off without any federal government.
I think we would too. I think we do a pretty good job, taking care of ourselves, as far as leadership is concerned. If good people were to know the truth, and I believe we are good people, and understand the truth, then why would we need leadership? It's just to each his own, and do the right thing. And if you're not sure what to do the next right thing, and just keep doing that, and things eventually will get better and better and better.
Yeah, and some of those statements, you guys get it. The complete system is a fraud. It truly is. It really is a sham, and we're waking up to it. And that's part of what's happening now. We really are, and this is, again, should the U.S. be split into multiple different countries? And what would happen if the states took back their own power? Some states could do it, and some states could do it really, really well as well. And let me see if I could find that one. Well, this gives you some ideas. Just looking at this, when we look at the spending, again, federal government just gets bigger and bigger and bigger. And what many people don't realize is, well, that's the federal government's money. Well, it's our money. It's every citizen's money is what it is that they take from us. You're working for this. You're giving your life for this. You're giving your time equals your tax dollars, right? So you're working for these entities, this entity, which is then using your money, which is your time, your life, to do things that many of us hate and dislike totally, like all these wars everywhere. You looked at 2019 discretionary spending. Look at that. Defense 52%, non-defense 48%. So to me, it's obvious, because this has just increased tremendously. It's obvious where who controls the government, and the annual deficit continues to go up. And here's what I was going to point out. Texas doesn't need anybody else. Texas is a country in and of themselves. Population 29 million compared to Russia. Russia has 144 million. Russia's gigantic. Texas is gigantic as far as states go. But look at the gross domestic product in this 2018, 1.7 trillion. Compared to Russia, the entirety of Russia is 1.28 trillion. So, Texas is diverse. Texas could easily be a very powerful country totally unto its own. And, obviously it's a very red state as well. GDP per capita, 58,000. In Russia, it's just 8,000. So, Texas could really benefit by, leaving the Union. And I remember reading a book like 30-something years ago that was all about which will be the first state to secede. And it was, thought it would probably be Texas because, again, it's so diverse. And it really it wouldn't need anybody else. How many people work for the U.S. federal government? Over 2 million. 2 million people. And, that's enormous. The federal government's gigantic. And now we have all these new departments that came about after 9/11, including Department of Homeland Security. And, Homeland, that very word, is a word that the Nazis used all the time.
Yeah, I mean, speaking of those things and not having any control, I know it's something that you definitely covered earlier, but marking certain people with invisible ink to make sure that they're up to date on their things that I don't want to mention because we're probably in enough trouble. But it is extremely corrupt, and I really am enjoying the conversations in the chat. You guys are just totally on target, totally awake, you're totally with it.
Heavy Metal Pedal, I love this. This is a great quote. The real division is not between conservatives and revolutionaries, but between authoritarians and libertarians. And that's true. And libertarians want individual rights. Yet we're all for basically people being able to make up their own mind. Just that simple. Make up your own mind. Being able to do your own thing. Don't infringe on my rights. That's the basic thing. So, if you want to dance around a campfire naked in your backyard, as long as nobody can see you, go ahead and do that. That's fine. Whatever. Just don't, go ahead and infringe on us. Taxation without representation. I mean, the Boston Tea Party happened over trivial things compared to what's going on now. It's trivial compared to everything that's going on right now.
Shemix, yeah, on the Social Security account number, I've heard about those things, and I believe it. I believe it. But I don't think we're actually ever going to have any access to it because the system is just too corrupt. And we did a video on Patreon earlier about the invisible ink, but I really don't want to get the channel shut down, so I don't want to say that vocabulary word. But yeah, I mean, you guys are just on it in here tonight, loving it.
Yeah, most definitely. And, right here, could Trump break up the United States? That was from 2 years ago. But maybe that was the plan all along. And it's not that, he alone is. It's obviously, it's the division again. Yeah, we'll see. We'll see, but at the same time, I have to admit, I think it would be harder when we're thinking about a one world order, right? And we're working towards a single world government. You could see all this going on. Obviously, if you break things up into smaller units, it might be harder to implement taking away all of our liberties, for one.
Yeah, they'll do that really slow, like the frog in boiling water. And most people are not going to recognize it. It's going to sneak up on them and it's going to bite them in the behind, and it's not going to feel good. And they're going to be like, oh my gosh, why didn't I listen, or what's going on? And then there's going to be a few of us out here that are still loose. We're still free. We're going to be able to explain a lot to a lot of people. And I think that's why it's important that we stick together, back each other up, go within. So when it does come time to talk to our grandkids about what happened, we will know the truth. And I think right now, actually, it just popped into my head, journaling would be a really, really good thing to do, because I feel like this is some serious history we're looking at right now, in my humble opinion.
And so, you guys, I just saw somebody commented, break up the banks, and there you go. There you go. And so, 1871 was a fascinating year. And, again, there's so much always going on behind the scenes. And, the Act of 1871 also created a separate form of government for the District of Columbia, which is a 10-mile square parcel of land and is governed with British Admiralty law. Many of you guys are probably familiar with this. And this sounds crazy, but this is actually real. It really is real. And the acts of the 41st Congress, Section 34, Session 3, Chapter 61 and 62, an act to provide a government for the District of Columbia. Basically, this is when the coup happened. This is when the banking coup happened. And, everything changed. Everything really, really changed. And so, that's when the power was really shifted. And, the country was pretty much bankrupt after the Civil War. And so, this is the big act. And this is also the year that we were told of 3 world wars by, one of the insiders there, with that group that starts with an I, ends with an I, has a couple L's, has a U, and M in it too. And, and also had the Chicago fire that year too. And there's more than that. That was a really key year where they really shifted things. They shifted things, and they took total control basically at that point.
Yeah, they did. And, as then it starts to snowball and things start to get hidden and we don't even see what's going on, but it is going on and it can be tracked back, which is really interesting. It just, why isn't this stuff covered in school? Why isn't this stuff covered in our history books?
Right. Yeah, it's all very, very fascinating. It really is. But what we're witnessing is most definitely historical. And where is it going to go? Where is it going to end? What's going to be the ultimate result? It's one of those things where I'm not allowing myself to be pulled in to it. But at the same time, I'm curiously watching, just to see the major things that are going on, because ultimately I know it's a divide and control. It's a Machiavellian completely. And, this is the globalist agenda, how the elite control your mind and your life. And it's very true. There is most definitely this control grid that's all around us. And the number one thing is divide and conquer. Divide and conquer. So we must be aware of that. And some people are talking about birth certificates, social security number. That's all true. In reality, I mean, you are basically kind of bought and paid for. And, we're kind of human cattle in many ways.
Yeah, we are. And, the thing with the social security number, birth certificate stuff, it's stuff if you were to try to track it down, unravel it, try to get some money. They say that, yeah, we have money in these accounts. It's impossible. It's like a death by 1,000 cuts trying to get to the bottom of that information. But I do believe it. I watched Santos Bonacci, and he explained it, verbatim, detail for detail, exactly how it's done. So I completely believe in that. It's just, is that where I want to spend my time and my energy, being frustrated about something? Because there's nothing I could do about it, even though it's true.
Yeah, I see Ray Ray's in the house. Hello, brother. Good to see you as well. And so, Reg, I know a lot of us agree to disagree, and that's a beautiful thing, because there are those that do believe in, President Trump having a white hat, and they do believe that the wars are going on right now, and that, the slaves are being freed, and, the Marines are rescuing people, and this and that. And I do think there's wars going on. I do think that there's good guys too. And I think, again, we just cannot allow ourselves to be pulled into something, especially, if there's going to be any sort of conflict coming up. We've talked about this at length. It's one of those things where we don't want to be pulled down into these horrible negative vibrations and energies. Right. When you look, this is interesting. This is how the map has changed on the elections going back to 1952. And so it's curious, because we used to be able to, maybe we used to be able to be more convinced as a society, more convinced that this is the guy, whether I'm a Democrat or a Republican or an independent. And, again, personally, I'm more of a libertarian. The country did get convinced, because look at like how overwhelming it was earlier on in the voting, right? Look at 1972. Wow. Yet now we see it's becoming much more divided on the whole. And, it's kind of becoming very, very factional. And, there are there's very red states, there's very blue states. And then, of course, it's the purple ones that kind of determine it nowadays. It's the swing states, like your Florida, your Ohio, New Mexico, the ones that could kind of go either way. And so that's changing. And with the migration that we've had, too, because so many people have left the Northeast, and so many people have left the Midwest as well, and moved south and west. That's all getting, even more muddled as far as the waters.
It is. And look at that. Yeah. It's like more and more and more convoluted, but also, we must be waking up more, because I think in all, the people who really want to vote, I don't want to vote anymore. I think it's a total waste of time, and I don't want to play the game, and I don't want to support the system. And the system is supported by voting, and I've really gotten my bottom chewed out a lot for that. And it did take some deep soul searching, but ultimately it boils down to me having to live with myself. And I don't see anybody that has gone into office and made a positive enough difference to help me, my family, my loved ones. They talk a lot of talk. So, I do think we are waking up, though. I really do. Look at this channel. These guys are great.
Yeah, most definitely. So, what will the ultimate outcome be with everything that's going on? What if the Senate impeaches as well? Then what happens next? It's going to be interesting to see, and it really is. So here you see Obama and Romney against Romney results, and obviously the the country is getting more solidly divided. And then Clinton and Trump. So very curious. And this question right here, how would the USA fragment? And so I saw somebody saying, what? The USA break up? Like they never heard of it. But no, this has been something that's been debated for a while. And a lot of people have seen this coming. In fact, in fact, some people have even had prophetic, quote unquote, dreams and visions of this. And yet there was this Russian professor that predicted the breakup of America in 2010. Said it is coming, it's going to break up. And so, this is yet another prediction of how it would end up splitting up.
That's creepy. That's another movie. I saw the previews on it, but I haven't seen it. So that's another movie that, yeah, I've lived under a rock. If you haven't noticed, I need to watch that one. But that would be pretty creepy.
Yeah, so Captain Debye just made a big statement right there, and there was a big question mark as to, why something like the U.S. Post Office would need massive amounts of ammo, as well as some of the other departments. Just kind of crazy, so you got to wonder what's really going on here. Jose says it's all in the subterranean cells. There's a lot of things going on subterranean, that's for sure. And yes, R.A. Greppy says that's what the NWO wants, division. Exactly. That's totally what they want. It's divide and conquer. Tracy, the colors, you mean on this map? I'm not sure if you mean this map.
Like Alaska will go to Russia.
Okay, yeah. So this is what this one professor said he sees. He sees Alaska reverting to Russia. He sees Atlantic America over here, which may end up eventually joining the EU. Central North American Republic will be part of Canada or under Canadian influence. And of course, this is actually, the population here is way more than the population of Canada, because Canada is, not that big a country in population. It's gigantic in size. The Californian Republic will end up being part of China or under Chinese influence. Hawaii will go to either Japan or China. Texas Republic will be part of Mexico under Mexican influence. So, interesting. This is all just different thoughts about how it could divide. Kind of wild thoughts. The Confederate States of America. I mean, have you ever thought what would have happened if the South won the war? The South couldn't win the war because this was all part of their bigger plan. And of course, I don't think it was just about slavery. I think there was a much bigger thing going on there as well. Slavery was the issue that got to be brought to the forefront because we all think slavery is horrible. And nobody should ever be put under those type of circumstances. But then there's many people that say, well, we're slaves to the system, because typically we work like till sometime in May just to pay all the federal government's debts, and stuff. And again, there were good comments in there too, saying the federal government's not federal. Bravo, you understand. You get the bigger picture. It's just the banks. It's just the biggest banks that there are, which ultimately it's just these same families that are going on. And so, peeking over here, Ron Paul, and the title of this video, End the Fed. That says it all. End the Fed. Just end it. Because it would eliminate so many issues. And again, our military spending, United States military spending is as much as the next 8 to 10 countries combined. It's just incredible when we look at that alone.
It's disgusting to think how much money these people have. They must have more money than God, and they have enough to send their kids to the best of the best schools and, take care of everything they could ever imagine in life. And look how our country is. Look how many homeless people we have. Look how many families are struggling. Look how many of us are going from paycheck to paycheck. It's ridiculous. And these people are sleeping on beds of our blood, sweat, and tears. It's sickening.
It is, and there's so many good people that think they're doing right when they send their sons off to service. And, my mother would have been so proud for me to go because everybody in my family was always career military. And, I broke the trend because I could see through, I understand, but everybody was always in the Navy. Water's in my blood. I love the water. I could live on a boat easy. I don't have any problems with that. And my grandfather actually helped to build the Nautilus, and he was stationed on submarines in both World War I and World War II, and my uncle as well. And, it's just one of those things, though, that you could see through it. Especially, the wars since 2001, since 9/11, have been so obvious. I think most people really recognize what's going on there. All resources, control. And also, I do think they're destroying a lot of artifacts and things that would point to the hidden history that are on the planet as well in those particular areas.
Yeah, they are. They're just corrupting the whole system so that we can't quite get a grasp on anything and slow down and understand and actually do something about something. I think the most frustrating part about all this political stuff is you can't actually do anything about it. With the exception of stepping out of it, going within. It is healthy to have a good conversation, though, once in a while, like we're having now. So this is really good. Maybe this has been building up inside of me because I do avoid this stuff kind of like the plague. But maybe it is good to just sort of vent a little bit about it.
Yeah. And so, it's like I would never shed blood for any of these politicians. Any of them. Because what you're doing is you're shedding blood for the bankers. Mm-hmm. Or the MIC, the military industrial complex. And to me, it's just so obvious. This article is from 2017, and it's basically entitled, "The U.S. is Breaking Up." And this person is stating, "I'm trying to tune out politics so I could spend the weekend with my kids undisturbed. Yet I feel compelled to type this out. America's breaking up. The election of Donald Trump has fast-forwarded the dissolution of the United States by 50 years, maybe even 100. Ideological and cultural differences have reached the point at which a huge pluralities simply loathe each other. And what one group considers holy and praiseworthy, the other considers abominable and deplorable." You guys remember the abominable snowman from that? That was a great...
I remember him from Bugs Bunny.
You do? Okay.
Yeah.
And so it's true. But again, it's not just one party or one person. I think everything's orchestrated. I think everything is planned out. I think it's a big drama. Mm-hmm. When I'm looking at the politics that are going on here in the political situation, to me, it's just as much a joke as, and don't get mad at me, guys, Days of Our Lives, General Hospital, mm-hmm. or any one of those soap operas where God, this is really poorly acted. These guys are not really professional actors. They're not even good at what they do. Mm-hmm. It's so obvious. It's honestly a tragic joke.
It is, and you just nailed it for me, and that's probably why I get so frustrated, because I know no more than I could reach through the TV and fix anything on General Hospital can I reach through the TV and fix anything political. It's that much of a play and a stage and an act. And anything out there, guys, I want to see hope. And I've heard of the white hats, and I've heard of certain, letters and stuff. And my gosh, I want to hold out hope. I do. I'm just not seeing any change. I'm just not.
And I have to say, Heavy Metal Pedal has had some amazing quotes tonight. Military men, and this is a quote from Henry Kissinger. "Military men are just dumb, stupid animals to be used as pawns in foreign policy." Well, that's how the aristocracy looks at things. If we ever look at the history of what really goes on, these wars between these kings and queens, and we still have kings and queens, guys. This thing hasn't changed. And they don't value the average person's blood, sweat, and tears, and sacrifice. Not at all. And so many people think they're doing the right thing. They go off for war, and they come back maimed or, permanently damaged mentally, emotionally, and then they're shunned. It's just such a sad circumstance. So what we really need, how do we change the situation? Well, honestly, it would start with the military personnel just throwing their guns away and saying, bleep this crap.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and PTSD is no joke. It's something that literally damages the brain. So if you take someone with PTSD, and get them with someone who's just been in a car accident with brain damage and put them in an MRI, you won't tell the two apart. They'll both you'll see the physical brain damage in both brains. And I think that's another thing that's been done by design to really screw up our soldiers. And the PTSD is something that I've been dealing with personally, and I didn't understand the length of brain damage it can actually cause, and then to undo that can take years. And for them, it's just another pill. Just take this pill and here, go about your day. But that doesn't fix anything. That just creates a short circuit.
Exactly. So, as this article says, the union's coming apart, but maybe it's not a bad thing, really. I mean, maybe that's exactly what has to happen. And over here, is it possible for the U.S. to break up, either de facto or formally? As this one says, and this is back in 2015, it's gotten worse. The country's not a happy place. As far as politically, more divided than ever, right? But that's how we're being divided, is politically. That's how we're being kept apart. And over here, Civil War II, we should say, the coming breakup of America with Thomas Chittum. And many people think that is what's coming. And, the trigger really could be something like, Trump's removal from office and then the refusal to be removed. That really could do it. Couldn't that do it? How would you guys react? You guys, we have 201 people right now in the chat room. So say he's impeached also on the Senate side and has to leave and refuses to leave. Could you ever imagine there being some sort of uprising where the military supports him? And then what would you do? How would you guys handle that?
I'm not sure. It's just something that I would have to sit and watch and see if there really is change, or if it's just more of the same stuff, talk on General Hospital. You can't reach through the screen and change anything, because even still, it's all just a show. And, we, other than taking control of our own health, we really can't do anything about it.
Earth A concert. Good to see you, brother Thor. We are the first responders to the Second American Revolution. A lot of people feel that's what's really coming as well. A second revolution. Okay, so Free Flow for Love is not crazy about Trump, but much better than Democrats and child trafficking. I think that goes on both sides, guys. I mean, I think that's one of those illusions where it's not just the Democrats that are doing that stuff. That's the elite. It's the elite in general. It's what they are. There's both parties involved in that at the highest level. Again, that's more the elite, and knowing who the elite really, really are. So I think we're being, we're being manipulated on many different fronts. We really, really are. So we all are against that type of abuse and trauma. And Cindy, I'm sure, would strongly reiterate that.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Strongly.
Yeah, most definitely, because it is something that is real. And Teasel, pharaonic bloodlines are pharaoh. See, it goes into that whole thing about bloodlines, families. It goes back into different lineages. It goes way, way back. We touched on this. Elizabeth Bathory, Vlad Tepes, the royal family. They're all interrelated. So yeah, I did, Todd. I hear about the trumpet sounds. Yeah, there's been a lot of those going on. And it's interesting. I mean, they sound to me like motherships in the sky. Who knows, what they really are, but interesting.
Yeah, and James Broom says most medications for psychological issues as well as pain medication do nothing but make it harder for the pineal gland to function and open. Yeah, James, I was on a ton of them for like 20 years, and it totally stunted my spiritual growth. And I tell you what, guys, since I've been off of it and had the energy work done and the tuning forks and all that stuff, I've grown leaps and bounds. And I was just sitting with one of our clients today, and I got super, super sleepy. And I asked him, I says, have you been sleeping okay? And come to find out, like for the last 3 or 4 days, he's been under all kinds of attack through, his so-called friends, family, and he hadn't slept a wink. So my empathic abilities are coming through really, really strong since I've stopped all of those medicines that did nothing but keep me asleep. But at the time I was like really desperate. I couldn't do anything, so I did what I had to do. But now I'm getting a lot better.
Yeah, most definitely. So there's so many things that we are combating here on many different levels. And Miss Dragon, much love to you as well. Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think that's part of the whole system is to keep us in a limited frame of scope, limited abilities, limited intuition. Keep the pineal gland calcified at all times. Don't wake you up to the fact that there's a lot more to our reality than we think. It's part of the whole bigger thing going on here. And so, will we see? I mean, I would so hope that people would not take arms against the others. If we're talking about something like, I hope that there isn't a second civil war. We need a revolution of thought. We need a revolutionary system put into effect, because this system's broke. But we don't need bloodshed. And there will always be forces that crave bloodshed and feed off of that. We know that. It's real.
Yeah, that's their bread and butter. They don't want to lose it, and they'll do what it takes to keep it. And these are, hopefully maybe these are some of the death throes of their grasp on us, which would be really, really wonderful.
We've all heard the rumors of NATO troops in the U.S., and there's been rumors of Russian troops up in Alaska and on down into the Pacific Northwest as well. There was Russian troop sightings in Florida. Honestly, I've had people reach out to me when I was in Florida, telling me the actual areas that they were in as well. Is it real? I don't know. What do you guys think? And this is out of Curious Read, the breakup of the U.S. again. So, this is not a novel idea. This is something that's been talked about and thought about in great depth by many people. And, are we actually witnessing it? Are we witnessing history, unfolding in front of us?
I think we could be. It definitely has a feel to it. See, like I don't pay attention to politics, but this is something that's kind of perked my interest. It is curious. It is some big moves. So I guess I am captivated a little bit, even though it's no more than like General Hospital. I am curious to see how the play ends.
Most definitely. Tolerance and apathy are the last virtues of a dying civilization, Aristotle. There's some questions in there about blood type, diet. I love all that stuff too. I was going to make a video today, just didn't get around to it, talking about those, putting it on the second channel, because there was other things happening today. There's a lot going on around us, and we need to become more unified as a people. And obviously it's very hard when they're trying to divide us politically. So again, my thought is, I just think that less government is always a good thing.
It is. And, to agree to disagree is so, so critical right now. We're all going to have different viewpoints, and different viewpoints are beautiful. We're all going to have different emotions, and we should listen to our emotions. They're really, really important. Even if they're different, they're guideposts. So, yeah, I mean, now is a really important time. I'm getting that in my gut.
Most definitely. Now, I saw Free Flow for Love say something about planetary alignments. You were talking about
Yeah.
some planetary alignments coming up.
We do have some planetary alignments coming up. I can't remember the exact times right now, but at the end of January, at the end of December, should be going out with a bang. And there were certain alignments that might set certain places up for a little bit of unrest, but these planets don't carry a whole lot of energy to them. That means they're not in a place where they can send a whole lot of energy to the situation. But, 2019 has been rumored to kind of end a little bit. I don't want to say the word with a bang, but but it could get interesting. Let's just say that. Keep an eye out for it with the planetary alignments. Yeah.
And so Frank Hughes says, if the Amish can be left alone, why can't we be left alone? But they're not being left alone. That's the thing, too. And the one that I did I did two on Patreon today. And this one, it's pertaining to the Amish, too, now. So, losing medical exception status. It's scary. It's scary. Our rights are completely being eroded. Absolutely, unequivocally. So lots of good comments out there. Lots of good comments going on. So yeah, there's so much going on right now. The important thing for us is to not get pulled into the fray emotionally in a negative light. Stay positive, stay focused. Don't let your personal vibrations be put down and brought down, because that's part of what's going on here. That's part of the bigger purpose here. And we can see it. And again, I was questioning because certain channels can talk about certain words like the V word, which again, we can't, because every time I ever had said that, and you can see the V word over here, every time that I have ever said it, the videos are like just locked down, demonetized, and they get no views, because they're being blocked completely. Yet there's channels out there that could speak about that. And who are those channels? Well, they're supporting one side in the story. They're completely behind one side in the story, one political side, one party, and in many cases, one person. And so they're part of the bigger agenda. And that agenda is divide and conquer. So, a channel where you're trying to say, hey, look, guys, it's puppet masters controlling everything. Okay, you're gonna be ostracized, and that's really what's happened to us and other channels like that. It's as long as you take a position, take a side, and then you're gonna be able to be manipulated, and you'll be there, and you'll maybe be out in mass when they're trying to resurrect Civil War #2.
Yeah, and like Michael said, the most important thing for us to do is keep our vibration high. And the way we do that is to be flexible in our thought, and, accept what other people may think or feel. And hopefully they'll accept us for what we think and feel. And that will keep our vibration high, to be a little bit like water, be flexible. Don't just hold steady to one thing, because that leaves you open for disappointment and kind of sets you up for failure in case that one thing falls through. It might not feel too good.
Most definitely. So guys, we're going to end it here. I want to thank everybody for your support as always on Patreon. Come and join us over there. Be part of the family over there. And again, there's videos that go up there that don't go on YouTube, topic sensitive for sure, or you can support us over on Ko-Fi as well. Make sure that you have joined as well the second channel, EE Arts. And as always, we look forward to your comments. Guys, be safe, be prepared, be awake, And don't allow yourself to be manipulated or played or be part of the division. Let's rise above truly, and let's come together, and let's not let them manipulate us anymore. So as always, God bless and namaste, guys.
God bless and namaste.